Good afternoon. We are pleased to welcome today Dr. Miroslav OUZKY. Dr. Miroslav OUZKY is a distinguished chairman of the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety Committee. He is a member of the Bureau of the PPE group of the European People's Parties and European Democrats, as well as the Conference of Committee Chairmen. He sits as well on the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Temporary Committee on Climate Change, and Delegation for Relations with South Africa. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to talk with you. We have a few questions. Some of those questions come from Czech citizens and NGOs in your country. And I will just limit myself to 3 or 4 questions to you. The first question is that given the imminent vote on CO2 emissions on cars, in your view, is the proposal submitted to the committee more or less balanced? Are there considerable changes as necessary, or either in the direction of more stringency or less stringency, and if so, which one?
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the possibility to be here and be interviewed. And what you stressed, now everybody is discussing about the climate change, and it's a big challenge for this body and for the European institutions to solve the problem, or to try to solve the problem. And one very important part is the CO2 emissions dossier, which is called CO2 emissions from the passengers' cars. I think that what we have now on the table, compromise amendments, which has been made by rapporteur and shadow rapporteurs, yes, Mr. Guido Sacconi and Martin Callanan from EPP-ED, that they are, I would say, good compromise and probably feasible. Yes. I mean, and possibly acceptable from both sides. I mean, public and environmental and ecological organizations, and on the opposite side for automotive industry, because everybody wants to put on the table legislation which will be feasible.
Yes. Now, are you thinking, or would it be possible to think of some economic instruments, some type of tax or charge on cars with higher emissions? Is this something that is being thought?
In this dossier, there are here, it's not taxation, there are here some penalties.
Yes.
Yeah, there is some average which will be count for all the fleet, and very special mechanism how to penalize cars which are over this average. And it's a very hot potato, and it's a very, very difficult discussion within political groups and within members of my committee, how high the penalties will be. Now I think I'm ready to say that in the compromise we have on the table is 50 euros per gram,
yes,
which will be over. And I think that distribution of the penalties and all the outcome is possibly, I hope that it will be and it must be acceptable for automotive industry also. I know that there are here some colleagues who would like to be much more ambitious. In the original Commission proposal, there has been written 95 euros. But outcome of the industry committee was the 40 euros only. So compromise is somewhere between.
And 80 grams per kilometer, 80 grams per kilometer, is that achievable 2020 and beyond?
What we have in those compromise are 95
yes,
grams. And there is some clause, some article in those amendments that we would call for some impact assessment study after 2015, and Commission will be responsible, will be ready to change it for maybe more ambitious approach.
What about biofuel? Do you think they should be included or not?
Biofuel is a very special topic. On one hand, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, everybody expected that it could be something as a miracle which could nearly solve the problem of the Europe Now we see the opposite side of the coin, impact for losing biodiversity within Europe, impact for cutting and unlogging logging timber, unlegal logging timber within rainforests.
Yes.
And at last but not least, increase of prices of the food.
Right.
So what we discuss now is if Commissioner proposal to reach 10% of biofuels in consumption within Europe is okay, or will be better to be a little bit less ambitious.
Now I'm going to ask you a question which pertains to the French presidency and how you see the outcome of this French presidency. I think it has great impact because obviously Prague is going to assume the presidency after France. And then maybe if you can say a few words about what people refer to as some hesitation on the part of Czech citizens regarding climate change issues. Please explain.
If you see some public polls, climate change policy and climate change topics are not so important for Czech citizens as maybe for the rest of the Europe. And I think that from on one hand it could be maybe a little bit more realistic policy, maybe some better expectations about the impact of all those legislation, because in my country I think that everybody count that it could cause our legislation, an emission trading scheme, for instance, increase of prices of energy and of the gas. And maybe cars, as I mentioned.
Yes.
So I think that some type of realistic policy we could expect. I'm happy that my government is now in good cooperation with the French presidency. I think that there
and
was
the Swedish perhaps too.
Yeah, and from the very beginning in this year during the spring, some my ministers mentioned that maybe there is lack of communication between their French colleagues, but it is not the case now. I think that cooperation is going very well, and I have to stress that I tried from my capacity as a chairman of this committee to help to organize this communication, and from the Slovenian presidency I organized some informal meetings of Slovenian, French, Czech and Swedish environmental ministers with my coordinators and with rapporteurs of a very important dossier for climate change from the January of this year, and I hope that it could help to better and closer cooperation.
Now, to the final question, I would like to give you the opportunity, Dr. OUZKY, to address in Czech. Unfortunately, I don't speak your Czech language, but to address the Czech citizens about your views, the perspective that you see as chairman of the committee for them, for their country, in the Czech language, please.
Dobře, děkuji za možnost promluvit česky z tohoto místa. Já bych chtěl občanům České republiky a zvláště občanům Ústeckého kraje vzkázat, že celá legislativa týkající se klimatických změn by měla a mohla, pokud s ní budeme dobře nakládat a budeme skutečně realističtí, by mohla být stimulující pro ekonomiku a prospěšná životnímu prostředí. Jsem přesvědčen, že tato legislativa nesmí být závažím na nohách evropské nebo české ekonomiky a budu velmi rád, když ten její přínos bude stimulace, nikoli pád.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. OUZKY. Really appreciate your acceptance of this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.